Hey, what's going on there, YouTube? HyperDark19 here, bringing you another installment of my Breaking the Meta segment. Today's deck profile is called Machina Gadgets Evolved, obviously, because this deck that I'm going to be profiling is Machina Gadgets. For those of you who don't know, Machina Gadgets is basically a machine-themed deck based around creating constant advantage by summoning gadgets and fetching more gadgets, and then discarding them to summon your big boss monster, Machina Fortress. It's a very good deck. I've really enjoyed this deck since the cards first came out in Machina Mayhem Structure deck. It's really, yeah, like I said, very consistent, very good, very fun deck. And let's just get to the profile. First off, you have the gadget engine of any gadget deck. 2 green gadgets, 2 red gadgets, there I go 2, and 2 yellow gadgets. I play 2 of each gadget. 2 of each works pretty well for me. That way you avoid cloggy hands with too many gadgets and not enough other monsters, because the gadgets themselves are relatively weak. The only reason you really use them is to create card advantage. Well, and in this deck they do have other purposes, but you'll see that later. Yeah, the gadgets, I really love playing with them. They're pretty much a constant advantage machine, and 3 of each is a bit much. So, like I said, it makes for cloggy hands, and just a handful of gadgets is really no fun. So, yeah, just 2 of each gadget. Next up, for the Machina engine, we have 3 Machina Gear Frame. This card is the Stratos of the deck. It's got 1800 just like Stratos, 4 stars just like Stratos. When he's normal summoned, you get to search your deck for another Machina monster other than another Gear Frame, obviously. How broken would that be? But, yeah, he's also has the added advantage of not only is he a beat stick and a searcher, but he's also a union monster, so you can equip him to one of your other machine type monsters, and if that card would be destroyed, this guy gets destroyed instead. Pretty interesting effect. Has its uses. I've used it more than once, and I mean, if he's equipped and you don't end up using him, you can just special summon him back to the field next turn. So yeah, really good card. Definitely needed a 3 in this deck. Next up, we have 3 copies of Machina Fortress. This right here is your boss monster. He's got 2500 attack, and he's a level 7. He's very easy to special summon. All you have to do is send monsters from your machine monsters from your hand that together equal a total of 8 or more stars. Special summon this guy from your hand or your graveyard. The good thing about this, the rulings with this card, is that if you discard, say, him and a gadget, you can just special summon the one you discarded, or if you discard 2 of these guys, you can special summon one of them. This guy's really good also because of his effects. Not only is he a 2500 attack, easily special summonable beat stick, searchable by Machina Gear Frame. His effects, when he gets destroyed by battle, you get to destroy one of your opponent's cards, and if he's targeted by your opponent's monster effect, you get to look at their hand and discard a card. Either way, very good card, helps you hold advantage in duels, and if they destroy him, you can just bring him right back, so very good card. Works very well with the gadgets. And last but not least, for the traditional Machina Gadget deck lineup, we have 1 Machina Force. I've seen a lot of people play with no forces. I think that's a mistake because 1, he's easily searchable by Gear Frame, and 2, having just 1 is almost never a dead draw because you have 3 fortresses. And just a single discard of this guy can bring back a fortress from the graveyard, or your hand, I guess. So yeah, this guy, you should definitely play him at 1. 2 is too much. Makes for, like I said, cloggy hands, because this guy is not good for anything else other than discarding. You can't summon him or anything. So yeah, just one of these guys is fine. I've also seen a lot of versions of this deck where people use only 2 Machina Fortresses. I think that's a mistake too, because it's just too good of a card not to be played at 3, I think. And even if you have 2 of them in the same hand, like I said, you can just discard and special summon one of them. So yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't play 3. Anyway, now on to the evolved portion of the deck. In my opinion, this is what makes it uniquely competitive, I think. First off, we have a tuner, oddly enough, because this deck doesn't normally run tuners. 2 copies of Gen X Allied Birdman, the new Gen X tuner. This guy is really awesome in this deck because not only is he a level 3 tuner, which with gadgets and gear frame, most of the cards in this deck being level 4, gives you access to Black Rose, which is also always a good thing. He gives you access to a few of the Gen X Synchro monsters too, one of which I'll be describing in detail later on. Also, he's special summonable. You can just bounce a card from your field, a monster from your field, and special summon this guy. However, he gets removed from play after you sync with him if you do that, but it's whatever. He's really, really good. Great card for this deck because, think about it, the bouncing ability is really good because, I mean, if you've got a gadget on the field already, bounce a gadget, summon this guy, summon the gadget again, you get its search ability again. Or bounce a gear frame and summon it again, get gear frame search ability again. He combos very well with a lot of the cards in this deck, and that's why he's so good. Then next up, another one of my favorite cards for Birdman to combo with, and the last card of the monster lineup, we have 3 Mechlord Army of Granel. This is a new card from Extreme Victory. It's got 1600 attack, 1000 defense, 4-star Earth Machine. Perfect for playing with Machinas. So you can discard him as part of a cost. Yeah, also his effect pretty much makes him the machine version of Gale, because when he's normal summoned, you can have the attack of one of your opponent's face-up monsters until the end phase. Really, really boss card. Love this thing because, let's think about it. Probably the most powerful monsters typically played in Yu-Gi-Oh! Usually top out at around 3,000 attack points, other than Shooting Star Dragon and the like Excel Synchros. But yeah, this guy, if he halves their attacks, 3,000 attack monster goes to 1,500. This guy has 1,600, so anything of 3,000 attack or lower, this guy can single-handedly take out by himself. Makes it really, really awesome. Also kind of helps out because this deck typically has a problem with powerful monsters. Like, your boss monster has 2,500 attack. It can't even get around to Stardust by itself, which kind of sucks. That's the downside of playing this deck. However, I have a few cards included in this build that try to solve this issue, and this guy's one of them. Very, very good card. I would highly recommend trying him out. You'll love him. Moving on from... Oh, and just another thing. Mechlord Army also obviously combos very well with Birdman because you can use his effect multiple times. Just saying. Moving on to the spell lineup, we've got some staples here. Just get them out of the way. Monster Reborn, staple, obviously. It's Reborn. Dark Hole, staple. 2 Mystical Space Typhoons. I don't use a trap stun, so you do have to play MST in this build. Very good card anyway. Giant Trunade, staple, should be in every deck. And last but not least for the staples, we have Book of Moon. Stops synchros, stops big attackers, stops effects from going off. Very, very good card. If you have the space, you should play one in your deck. Next, kind of unique to this build, Double Solidarity. This card is very, very good because as long as you have all the same type of monsters in your graveyard, this gives an 800 attack point boost to all the monsters you have. So think about it. Every single card in this deck is machine. So if you have a monster in the graveyard, you're always going to get this effect. And this is really, really good because just with one of these out on the field, Machina Fortress becomes a 3,300 beater. Gear Frame and Granel, Gear Frame becomes 2,600, Granel becomes 2,400. Even your gadgets become grow to the 2,000 range with this card. So I really think this card is a very, very good choice for this deck. Although a lot of people feel the Solidarity version of Machina Gadgets is weak, I disagree. I've seen a lot of people try to play the teched out versions with Gores and Fossil Dynas and all kinds of non-machine monsters, and it takes away the consistency in my opinion, because if you get stuck with like a Gores and a Fortress and that's it, like for the monsters in your opening hand, well, that kind of sucks. So I really think playing all machines Solidarity build really helps the consistency and generally overall helps performance. So that's just my opinion. Next up we have Double Pot of Avarice. Reloads your gadgets from your graveyard, your gear frames, your fortresses, your Mechlord armies, whatever. Reloads them from the graveyard to your deck, gets a card drawer, needs some drawing in this deck because I don't play dualities, obviously. Pot of Avarice is a very, very good card. Helps recycle your loops, your gadget loops and plays. So, yeah, great card. Needed, I think. And last but not least for the spells, limiter removal. You're playing machines. This makes OTKs very possible. This is probably one of the best support cards for any type out there. If you're playing machines, you play limiter removal. Next up for the traps, we have a really stacked trap lineup here. Deck has a lot of traps. And it's very similar, in fact, might be exactly similar to my Gravekeeper trap card lineup. So here you go. 2 copies bottomless, staple if you don't have warning like me. Mirror Force, obviously, staple. Torrential, again, staple. Solemn Judgment, staple, and it'll be really easy for everyone to get Solemn Judgment because, like I said in one of my other videos, this is coming out as a common in the next structure deck, so you'll be able to get your copies. Next up, we have, for anti-meta disruption, we have Triple D Prison. Very good, helps get rid of Stardust, Shooting Stars, Red Novas, anything you don't have an out to with destruction cards. D Prison, fantastic card. You really should run it. Next up, another anti-meta card, Royal Oppression. I know this deck relies quite a bit on special summoning, but you just have to watch your timing with this card, and it can be amazing because this card shuts down a lot of decks out there. So I really think Royal Oppression should be considered, just like my Gravekeeper build, you should really consider running it, even though it doesn't seem like the most ideal deck to play it in. And last but not least, Double Compulse. This card, like D Prison, it deals with threats that you can't get rid of by destruction or battle. So Compulse is definitely a great anti-meta choice for this format, I think. And now the extra deck. I'm not going to go too much into detail with this, but I really only play 2 monsters in my extra deck. Well, 4 if you count both copies of each. One is Black Rose, like I said, obviously with Birdman. Makes plays with Black Rose really easy, and if you still have your normal summon left over, you can normal summon a card and do some damage directly, or you can special summon Machina Fortress from your hand and do damage like that, which is really awesome, especially if you can play Solidarity before it. Good stuff. However, the main synchro that I like to... Oh, and just a note, I know Black Rose can screw up your Solidarity plays, it being a dragon and all. However, that's why you have Pot of Avarice. Reload that Black Rose as soon as possible, and you're good to go. Next, I have 2 copies, the other Synchro Monster, 2 copies of Gen X Ally Triforce. This is a really viciously underestimated card, in my opinion. Because you play Gen X tuners, you have access to him. He's level 7, which makes Birdman and pretty much any monster in this deck can get this guy. His effect depends on what attribute you use of the monster you use to summon him, but since all these monsters are Earth, you're really only going to be gaining his Earth ability. He's got 2,500 attack, and his ability in that case would be the ancient, what I like to call the ancient gear effect, which is if he attacks, your opponent can't activate spells or traps in response. So that means if this guy attacks, no Mirror Force, no D-Prison, nothing that stops attacks will stop this guy. So I think he's a really, really good card to play, especially because he's a machine and he won't screw up your Solidarity. He even benefits a lot from Solidarity. Like Machina Fortress, he becomes a 3,300 attack beatstick. So you should definitely, if you're running the Birdman version of this deck like I am, you should definitely play Gen X Ally Triforce. Well, that's it for the deck, and I hope you like it. Please rate, comment, subscribe, do whatever. I'm always open to suggestions. And yeah, until next time, rule the meta. Don't let the meta rule you. Peace out, YouTube.